It
Steve,
says it is.
listen to me. It is now streaming. So we're now streaming. We're about to start the show. We're going to expect Michael Markman to join us shortly.
Okay, Tina.
Oh,
just,
here's a message from Michael. Let me just see what we're doing.
Meanwhile, hello
There it says.
world.
okay, let's start now.
Okay, we'll start and then
Just give me the intro and let's start now.
got it, Steve. Okay, it is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gilmore here. This is the Gilmore Gang for a rare Saturday performance
in February.
in February.
We made it to February.
February.
That's what I said.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
I'll
Let's
send
go
you the
back
tape.
and see that.
It's there. Trust me. It's a very quick whir.
Yeah.
But it's there. Joining us obstinately from London, England is Frank Radis.
Am I the only person that has to stop and go February when I say that word? I don't know.
Apparently.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Hi, gangsters.
And
Steve.
lose the super. Thank you. I'm talking to my future self. In the beautiful backwoods of California, it looks like the background. What's the name of the horse, Dennis?
Oh, the horse, that's Scooter.
Okay, so welcome, Dennis Bombriand.
Well, it's my pleasure. The horse is in California. I'm in Boston. Through the miracle of Zoom.
And lose the super.
Thank you. Perfect. Joining us briefly, because he's got much more important things to do, is Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Steve, for stirring it up there and making me feel guilty, but it ain't gonna work. I'm not guilty.
Well, so wait a minute. I made you feel guilty, or I attempted to make you feel guilty, but it won't work.
No, I'm one of those very vulnerable people that actually does feel guilty, but I have to do this kind of emotional intelligence internal conversation with myself.
I don't hear anything.
Say no, don't be guilty.
Okay, and
Markman's talking
Michael
to himself.
Markman, can you hear me?
Not yet.
Evidently not.
No, he's gonna dial back in.
Okay. Joining us from Atlanta, or the environs thereof, is Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
Greetings from the home of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, you're living with Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Did not say that. Did not say that.
Well, kind of.
Hey, can you, Steve? Can you see yourself in the big screen in the corner of my shot there?
Oh yeah.
No, I
A little
can't.
bit.
I
Oh,
can.
big screen. Well, I can't see.
Oh, I
It's
can.
me.
Not anymore.
How does that work?
It's on now.
What was it? What did you do?
There's Steve on the right side.
You're just looking over my shoulder. Or looking
Yeah, but how do you? Oh, I see. I don't see, actually.
Okay.
Let's see if we got everybody covered, at least for now.
Except for Michael.
Markman was here, but he left early.
All right, let's get started. What's going on? Anybody want to lead off? Frank?
I do. So who exactly wins if and when the Senate decides that Trump is not guilty in the trial? Who wins? Who benefits from that?
Trump.
Only?
I think we all lose.
Doesn't the Republican Party actually lose too?
You would think.
I'm not sure. What are you getting at in the form of question?
Well, I guess not. I'm naively thinking that that the Democrats will put up a really strong case. We still don't know whether or not there's going to be any witnesses, as far as I understand. There's certainly a lot of video evidence that they're going to put up a really strong case, and it's public and people get to watch it. And not unlike the first trial where pretty substantive stuff was put out and they still, let him go. They're going to do the same thing now, but even more substantive stuff can be seen by the public. That's kind of why I'm torn about who gets hurt here. It's not really a question as much as I'm looking for guidance from you, sage and wisdomous folks.
Another
You
way
just
to
say
say
wisdomous. What is
Well,
wisdom?
I couldn't think of another word. Wisdomous sounded
Okay.
good though.
another way of asking the question for me is unless Nancy Pelosi knew she could win, why did she do it?
She had to. She had
Yeah.
to. She had to for history. She had to for precedent. You can't attack the national legislature without some kind of consequence. Now, frankly, after the impeachment, however it goes, the Justice Department really should be indicting Donald Trump on criminal charges, not political charges. So, in a way, the Senate hearing doesn't matter, but I don't see a way you could not have it.
Well, Dennis, doesn't it? You know that phrase? What is it? I'm going to get it wrong, but you'll correct me. History is written by the winners, something like that.
Correct.
And let's say Trump is found not guilty for the second time. And of course, we all know he is, but he's going to be found not guilty. It isn't really, the lesson being handed down isn't don't rise up in an insurrection. The lesson being handed down is as long as you don't get caught or you win, it's okay to do anything.
Well, go back a second. The phrase, you got it right. History is written by the winners, but it's I think it would be incorrect to apply that here in this way, because it's not about the battle. It's about the war. History is written by the winners of the big wars, the big battles. The Romans beat Carthage, and the Romans wrote the history. We beat the Allies beat the world in World War I and World War II, and the Allies wrote the history. Churchill wrote a great deal of it. In this particular case, I think this will be what would be more accurately described as a Pyrrhic victory for Trump. He's probably going to get off, and it'll look like a victory, but what's really happening is it's just furthering the dissolution of the Republican Party. I mean, the GOP can't have too many weeks like it had this week and continue to function as a national party.
Yeah, but we've been saying that for 5 years. So why is it going to be true now?
It's accelerating, that's why. Hey, I've got books on my shelf somewhere with titles like The End of the GOP or The End of Conservatism. They were written 4 or 5 years ago. It takes time.
Okay, I just want to bring Michael Markman in for long enough for a super. Hi.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not getting any.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's. Well, there goes our 15 minutes. Okay.
Well, but you had time for his super though, so that's good.
No, I'm still here.
I'm back on the air.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. I'm sorry to be late.
No problem. All right, we're battling the clock, and the clock is in where? Manchester?
Manchester, exactly. Not Manchester, America, Manchester.
Yes.
Okay, so and we're discussing for those who weren't here, we're discussing the efficacy. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Efficacy of putting Trump on trial, and what good is it, and who will quote win? So my point would be that this is the upfronts for the next season of what we see on television, and I think that it's bad news for Trump, no matter what happens.
No argument there.
Okay, well then, bring it on, and then let it go by. And like you say, Dennis, maybe there's a court somewhere that can put some teeth into keeping Don locked down in Florida.
There's a very interesting parallel between what's going to happen in the Senate next week and what happened this week in Congress. And it's this: the Republicans don't have the vote to stop the Biden plan. And they went through a 15-hour session on Thursday in which they had something like 800 amendments. And one of their leaders said, I think it was McConnell, saying, we're going to make the Democrats go on record for how they vote on this stuff, as if voting for food for kids is a bad idea. That's what their mindset is. And the mindset in DC, that mindset crosses party lines. The Democrats are putting on this trial, at least in part, to get a bunch of Republican senators who are up for re-election in 22 to vote to acquit. It's a dare.
Absolutely. You can see that the DSCC, the Democrats' congressional campaign arm, is already putting out commercials against all of the Republicans who voted to associate them with this QAnon lady, whose name I will not repeat. It's a question of branding the Republicans as being the party of Trump. He has a lock on a small segment of the population. The question is, can you inoculate the rest of the population against his prions?
Because I'm not hanging around very long for this issue of the gang, I'd love to leave you with a discussion point you can come to later, which is the bill that was published yesterday to modify Section 230 that's going to impact the way the internet works was devastating in its stupidity, and it was a Democratic bill. It basically would turn every internet site, no matter how small, into a site policed by its owners down to the nth degree of detail, and making them liable for everything third parties said on their platform. And it's kind of like your worst nightmare of how bad the Democrats could end up being. I doubt the bill will see the light of day as an act, so I don't want to over dramatize it, but it was a kind of a terrible opening shot.
Well, it definitely shows that there are just as many stupid Democrats as there are stupid Republicans.
Yes, I wouldn't characterize it yet as a Democratic bill. It was a bill proposed by a Democrat. It's not clear that Senator Warner has the support of the party behind it.
Well, then again, I haven't read the bill, but for several years now, I've been saying that the way to handle this is to have the individual companies regulate themselves, not in a helter-skelter kind of way, but in a way that resembles how we manage medical licenses in each of the states. And I think if that's the upshot of this.
No, it's the opposite, Dennis. It's we're going to regulate you, and you're going to have to execute what we tell you.
Well, I have not yet examined the bill, so I'm not sure what the details are. It doesn't repeal 230. It's some kind of modification. What exactly does it require?
It defines a very large number of things that you can't do online. But the main thing is it shifts responsibility for policing it to the owner of an internet site, not just the big sites, any internet site. So basically it would be a little bit like if every local administration at the county and city level in the United States was told they're responsible for what people are saying on the street corner and had to hire a private police force to patrol the streets to listen to what people were saying and then enforce it, that's the spirit of it.
All right, but since you're not going to be around for the actual discussion, who are the companies that are going to be hurt by this bill? Should it actually exist in the real world, not
any company that provides a place for us to publish.
No. I'm talking specifically. What companies that you know of are going to be impacted by this? Not the whole world.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Substack, the Gilmore Gang will be hurt by it. You'll be responsible for what we say on this show. Everyone will be responsible who provides any kind of publishing platform.
How could I be responsible?
Responsible in what way, though?
For you're liable in law if you allow something to happen.
You're liable in law if someone sues you for damages.
No, this is a law. This isn't civil. This isn't civil. This is going to become the law of the land.
Maybe.
Yes, it's the law of the land, and it's a law about civil liability.
No, it's the law.
Not about the government.
No, it is not.
Sites.
It is, Michael, you're wrong. It's not about civil liability. It's about liability. It covers any federal law or state law that's broken. You're liable for. You, the platform, are liable, and we are a platform. The Gilmore Gang's a platform as defined under this bill.
Well, it's not a bill. It's a proposed bill. That's number one. As we see in all of the other machinations going on around the stimulus package, these are push and pull, attempts at defining a consensus that develops as a result of an initial approach. So, extrapolating to how this is going to impact on the Gilmore Gang. I mean, we already have such a small audience that we can just go behind encrypted firewall and, nothing will change. So,
and Steve, you do a good job of starting off every conversation that may have something in it that is going to be a problem, as talking about that before we get into it. So you do set somewhat of a precedent by doing that. But Keith, I as I read about this proposed bill, that Werner is somebody who's probably never spent any time on the internet.
Well, that's the typical assessment of people in Congress trying to get a foothold in this debate, is that they're, either idiots or they've got something else going on. My suggestion would be that they've got something else going on, which is, they're throwing a dart at the wall, and then people are going to rally around various darts in various parts of the building.
I think that's an interesting point that you make there. What other things could there be? It's got to be something that's got to do with money somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, that's what I was really asking, Keith.
I don't know, Steve.
Well,
how many draw names of companies that would be impacted? Amazon?
Yeah.
Less than everybody else.
Okay. Who's more than Amazon that would be impacted?
And anyone that provides
Microsoft.
Less than anyone else. It's mainly going to be Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Microsoft, so yeah, LinkedIn. Although LinkedIn doesn't really get the spotlight shined on it here because it doesn't really apply as well as it does on Twitter.
How about Clubhouse?
Clubhouse, it's audio, but yes, Clubhouse, insofar as it's public. Basically, they've removed the concept of a platform. Everyone's a publisher now. There is no platforms. Everyone's a publisher, if this was to be law.
So are all publishers platforms?
there are no such things as platforms. They're not defined. Everyone's a publisher. And as a publisher, you are liable for everything with a capital E, done on your publishing platform. And so
the only difference between what you're talking about and what I think is the real world is everybody is liable for what they publish. It may be an economic impact. It may be trying to reach through an influencer model, et cetera, et cetera. These are the tools that everybody is working with, and everybody has pretty much access to it.
I really would like to table this discussion till I can familiarize myself with the bill, because what Keith is describing is a repeal of 230, and that's not what Warner's proposing. And I would really like to find out specifically what he's proposing. It's not the kind of blanket liability that Keith is imagining that it is. And I can't really talk to it because I haven't familiarized it with it.
I think
I also want to point out that Warner's history is in telecommunications. So, he's not simply some Yahoo who showed up.
It's Dennis, sorry, Michael, you're right that it is not a repeal, it's a reform. But the word reform is very elastic in this context. It's a search and replace type of reform, which amounts to a repeal and a new law on the substance of it.
Where does freedom of speech fit into this argument?
Nobody's really discussing whether to extend the First Amendment rights to to social media now that social media is defined as the public, the assembly point, the right to assemble.
I never understood anybody who said that social media should be governed by the same rights as the individual. So, well,
it's the right to
okay with the fact that that's not happening yet.
Yeah. Well, the right to assemble, only had an analog interpretation, but now that most human existence is digital, the right to assemble takes place on social media, whether we like it or not. That's where people meet and talk. So the question then arises, is there a right to assemble unless it also includes digital?
So the individuals who assemble are not as likely to have some kind of legal action taken against them as the publisher that they are assembling on will have. They will be the ones who will suffer.
Yeah, if somebody assembles on your property, digital property, and says or does something that is defined as illegal, before they're liable, you're liable. You, the owner of the property.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to give Keith the boot here by asking. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
If I'm not going to be around, I at least have to have the residue of my presence.
The residue.
Yeah,
wow.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but there's a little more. Brent, any thoughts?
Plenty, but not really on this, since I haven't read this.
No, just on anything.
Bill. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, it's real football is really tomorrow, and that's the Super Bowl. So other than that,
hasn't the pregame started already?
I don't know. People get into all that pregame, and let me ask you guys. I'll throw this out there because somebody asked this question to me. How many of you watch the Super Bowl for commercials more than football? So you can critique the commercials versus actually watching the game. So you watch for the commercials.
Well, I don't know anything about the teams. I mean, as far as I can tell, the quarterback on one of the teams is about my age.
But in much better shape.
Yeah.
He better be, I'll tell you. It's kind of a low bar. But,
Kinda.
so Tom Brady versus what? I mean, what's the storyline?
Well, all right, jeez. The Kansas City Chiefs, who won last year, are back, could win back to back, and they've got the best quarterback of the current generation, Patrick Mahomes. You've never heard of this guy at all?
Just heard it.
Versus
I don't know.
the best
You're-
quarterback that ever played the game.
Remember,
Yeah, they call it. It's called the GOAT versus what is it? It's
The
not
old
it's
GOAT.
the greatest. It's the greatest of all time versus the greatest of current times. But Gawkit doesn't work.
No, I would to answer your original question, I would say that that in the past, yes, even though I love football and when I lived in the United States, I had a team. My favorite team used to be called the Washington Redskins, but the commercial load in the last few years, you got to see them all before the game pretty much anyway. And certainly as time went on, you could see everything online. Now there's so many interesting, not of the big brands that aren't competing in the commercial world this year. I find that to be interesting. So I think for me, if I were to watch the game, which I won't because it doesn't come on until like 3:00 in the morning here, I would watch for some combination of watching the GOAT play the GOAT and seeing some of the commercials. That's what it would
what's
be.
the last word? The GOAT plays what?
Greatest of current time.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I just came up with a different one. Greatest of our time.
Yeah.
Goot. The GOAT versus the Goot. Greatest of our time.
Goot. I like I put a little Flemish thing in there.
I think Mark Warner should go after pronunciation next.
From the little Flemish town of Rotterdam. Oh, I got one in there.
Wow.
That was a Fireside Theater reference. Thank you very much.
Who?
From the little Flemish town of Rotterdam. Oh, come on, man. I'm sorry. You must not have remembered that.
I wasn't there for any of that.
Yeah, well, you might not have been there for any of it, like I wasn't there for any of it, but I.
Correct. But somehow hey.
Somehow it was permanently imprinted on my brain.
Okay, well,
I remember this stuff like Dennis remembers, I don't know, science stuff.
So in other words, going back 200 years as opposed
You're our nerd. Frank, you're our entertainment nerd.
So I agree with somebody, maybe Frank, that I've always felt that only recently has the Super Bowl actually been a good game historically. For the first 40 of them, how many have there been?
This will be 55 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good guess. There was never a close game. It was just basically not great football.
Never.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And then there were a couple of screaming, scoring back and forth. It felt like, the last 3 laps of the Indianapolis 500, basically. And those games were incredible. And so it kind of forced us, or at least me, actually to watch the game.
All right, I'll switch to the switch up on here because this is kind of getting boring. How does the kind of the new focus on creating virtual events and turning spectators into some kind of participation people, whatever, participants. How has that changed the way that we view the biggest spectator event of the year?
I think that will have a lot to do with how the game is produced from a television perspective. And I've seen a few events where the production has, piped in certain types of sound effects and sound design, where obviously there's going to be more people in this crowd than normal. I think they've given away a ton of seats to the healthcare workers, which I think is really good. I think that I think the interesting thing for me will be how are the announcers going to deal with it? What are they going to sound like? I have no idea. I really don't know. And I'm certain that you guys have.
This year is like a comedy with a laugh track. Sporting events now have laugh tracks the way sitcoms do. They come out of machines.
But it kind of works. It really does.
So the other thing to layer on top of this year's game is, what is the COVID spike following this game going to be like? We had a huge COVID spike after Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and travel and gatherings, and then it tapered off. So we're on a down slope. Is this game going to push us back up? When you factor in, house parties and people gathering in bars, they might not be in the stadium, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity for transmission.
That's definitely a concern. I mean, it sounds to me like the strategy of giving away tickets should be instituted, on a video basis as well. In other words, if you want to watch the game, get your vaccination.
If only there were vaccines available, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, well, obviously we're in a gap between what if and reality, but it seems the feedback loop in terms of the analytics of the advertising on the Super Bowl is also permeating the reality of how the audience consumes the game, and it's very much related to how much can we enjoy a football game between. To me, all of those games leading up to this are suspect because of the difficulty of being able to put a team on the field in the pandemic. Are these legitimate? According to you, Brent, these are the two teams that deserve to be there.
I ain't say that, but
Okay,
so go that far, but no.
Look, to talk about what you were saying there, Brent. I think that that there's going to be. The Super Bowl allows an opportunity from a technical perspective for there to be really cool things to be done with graphic design, with slow-mo, with replay, with, cameras on the field. With I would be looking for, because based on your question, what is it going to be like? I would be looking to see what kind of innovations technology wise, what are the technical innovations that are going to be there? Because that's the Super Bowl is the place where that stuff happens. And I know from my experience, having done half a dozen Olympics and a couple of Super Bowls, that a lot of that stuff you didn't actually know about until you saw the game and somebody said, "Oh my God, did you see the way they, remember the time when they put the little electronic chip inside of the hockey puck and you could see it move?" I mean, nobody had seen that before. There's stuff that I think we're going to see, I'm hoping anyway, that will make a big difference.
So now we have how many overlays? We've got the sports, we've got the pandemic, we've got the video coverage, we've got the virtual audience, we've got the advertising. This is a very complex event at this point.
Yeah, and Brent brought it up, so it's his fault.
Yeah. So,
but the thing about the advertising and the Super Bowl is that over the past decade, and especially the last half decade, it's kind of been divorced from the game. It used to be that you didn't see the special commercials until game day. Now you see them a week in advance. They're all being pre-marketed on YouTube. So the only thing that you can't see until the game is the outcome of the game. Because if you're interested in the commercials, you can watch them today. You could have watched them last week.
I think that's kind of interesting.
I'm very interested to see the Equalizer, which is coming on right after the game. The brand new
Why?
Queen Latifah.
Oh, with Queen Latifah.
Yeah, I am.
Right.
I am, because first of all, I'm a big fan of the original Equalizer, then a big fan of the one with Denzel Washington, the 2 movies with Denzel. I'm really, and the production team that's doing this TV show with Queen Latifah is the same one that did the production for the
But
Denzel
the Edward,
movies, I think.
oh, the Denzel one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is just because I'm looking forward to that, and so I'm actually, I have my cloud DVR set to record that, not the game. Anyway.
I'm
Okay, so
curious to see. Do
Dennis,
you
this
think
is your worst nightmare, Dennis? We're talking about TV again. So,
Okay, I have a TV.
oh, okay.
Have
So do
two.
I, but there's nothing on it, as you can see.
I have 2. So
do you see? Oh,
By the way, your horse may be a little ill. I haven't seen him moving at all. Is he?
Well,
Is that a
it's
stuffed
Ken's
horse?
horse, actually.
it's actually Gene Autry's horse, and he's been dead for 50 years.
Oh, okay.
Is that Trigger?
yeah. I was gonna say, is Trigger? Is that his horse?
No, it's Ann Chen's horse.
Ha! That's
Yeah,
a
don't
dog.
believe
The
me.
dog doesn't move at all.
Sort of looks like Michael yesterday.
Wow.
Yes, we were concerned because when our abortive attempt at a show yesterday, in the interregnum between figuring out that we didn't know what we were doing to actually knowing that we didn't know what we were doing, you looked like you had actually succumbed on your couch.
Good use of the word interregnum, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh, I did succumb. I had succumbed.
Well, I mean, seriously, we were worried about it, and we couldn't.
No. It's just
we
it's
couldn't
a
reach
little
it.
narcolepsy. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
It happens.
That's I had an executive friend of mine at one of the networks, not to be mentioned, who was very senior at a news division, who would fall asleep in staff meetings. He had narcolepsy. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I hate to even mention it, but I did. I hope he's not watching.
well, or at the moment.
Yeah.
He's sleeping.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of things that appear to be tech related that I'm not particularly fascinated with, but I just I would tend to stay away from them. But now that Keith has undermined the show so specifically with his Section 230 paranoia, it opens the door for me. All right, what about Clubhouse? I want to hear. I'd like to start with Brent because I know what he thinks.
Well, if you know what I think, you know, you could just say what I think and go right to Frank. And
I understand that.
But Brent, you're here. But you're here. You can say it in your own voice.
Not only that, but that's my MO.
I don't want to ruin. I don't want to
everybody
get.
else
I don't want to get you in trouble because of this new law, man. I might say something, and you know, we could get sued before this even hits TechCrunch.
Well, the chance of anything passing in Congress is zero. So I'm not worried about the new law. So go ahead.
I think it's just ridiculous how much people are talking about this thing. I mean, I talked about it a little bit with Keith for my little one-on-one thing, and then we did a whole segment on CRM players on Thursday, in which we had about 5 people on, and we all thought this is just why are we even talking about this at the length?
But you were talking about it.
We were. I mean, we're guilty. We're panning it, of course, because most of you kind of know what's going to happen with this thing. You know, if it's new, it's the new shiny object. Everybody's talking about it. You know, everybody, starts to get their, fixated on it. And then everybody starts trying to figure out how can they become a brand themselves by using it or becoming a Clubhouse expert, which I don't know how you could become a Clubhouse expert, but it goes through the pattern, the phase, and the phases are accelerating to the point where I'm already sick of it. And I've only been on it a couple of times.
Dennis?
With regard to the legislation,
No, Clubhouse.
oh, Clubhouse. I've been on it once or twice. I wrote a piece this week about it. I think one of the things that it does is it requires you to be present. It's not the kind of thing where you can go drop a bomb and skedaddle. And as a consequence, if you're present, you're gonna listen, whether you like it or not. You're gonna end up listening. And I think that is an important part of the way out of the morass that we're in right now.
Explain.
We don't have much dialogue through social media. We have insults. You know, people bomb you on Twitter and run away. They don't use their real names and stuff like that. Facebook isn't a whole hell of a lot better, but it seems to me products like Clubhouse, by forcing you to be attentive and present, will force you to be a little more civil, as opposed to just bombing through Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And I think because of that, there's a greater chance that we'll have real dialogue, and we'll discover that we're not that far apart as a society, one person to another. The article I wrote compared today with pre-World War I Paris and the Cafe Society and the fact that there were multiple newspapers in Paris with daily circulations of over 1 million. And they published everything from news to poetry and fiction to opinion. There were a lot of scandal sheets. There were dime store novels. There was this really yeasty mix of people having opinions or having ideas and trying to share them and trying to sort them out. And Cafe Society was one of those things that helped sort things out. So is, believe it or not, the collage, the art form, was invented around that time by Picasso and Braque. And collage is a wonderfully deceptive thing. You cut out pieces of content and you glue it to the canvas and you do some art around it. But if you're really good at it, you're making commentary and contribution as you're doing that by what you select and what you paint over. And so it seems to me that products like Clubhouse have the potential, at least, to fit into the niche that was established by collage by Picasso and Braque and Juan Gris and people like that over 100 years ago.
Frank, I just want to pin down the reference earlier to the Firesign Theater. Do you see the Firesign Theater and that kind of media or creative work as essentially the collage of the 60s?
A, yes, but B, I actually see something like the Firesign Theater happening on a Clubhouse channel. I see that is a place where comedians and storytellers can get together to talk about things or to actually create new things. I think that I agree with absolutely everything Dennis said, but I might take it a step further and say that I think it has the potential to become one of the most important new social media channels of our time, because of all of the things that Dennis said. It allows it's opinion based, it's fact based. It allows you to choose whether you either want to contribute or not contribute. You have to be there. You have to listen. You have to. There's personality to it. But it's also there's a pragmatic side to it. Well, just before I did this, we did the gang today. I did what was called a pitch party for the Savannah College of Arts and Design, where students got to pitch, 5 or 6 students got to pitch half a dozen of us who are in the industry, their show ideas. And each and every one of them talked about how they used Clubhouse to listen to other people and the way that they do the things that they do in the business. So could be talking to people who are talking about marketing or talking about television production technology or technique, about writing, about sound design, about music, all of these things. There are places in Clubhouse to go and talk to about that. There's also places in Clubhouse, if you've done it a few times, often the gang will go from one topic to another topic to another topic, but Clubhouse may have a page that's just about one of those topics. And if you're interested enough to listen to it or to contribute to it, that's a good thing. It seems to me that there's a lot of stuff going on in Clubhouse that we haven't touched on yet. We haven't figured out how it works. And I think that it's going to be unlike, it won't be too much different than what happened with Snap. When Snap was Snapchat, and it looked to me like Snapchat was just a gimmick. Look at how Snapchat has become Snap and has become way more than just Snapchat. I think that's what Clubhouse is right now. It's in the beginning stages of becoming something really important.
Michael?
Sorry, Brent.
I haven't figured it out yet. I think I part of me looks at it just the way Brent does, that we're at a phase where people have to be on the platform just to find out what the platform is about, so they'll have an opinion about the platform. I don't know how many of them will remain engaged with the platform. On the other hand, what Dennis is saying is also true. It does compel attention. It does compel, it moves us away from the kind of asynchronous stored media that have characterized most of social media till now. You have to be there at the time it's happening, just like with events like sporting events or the Academy Awards. But what I'm uncertain about is how compelling it will be. Will people get over their need to be informed about it, to actually be engaged with it? I saw something that Francine posted on Facebook the other day. It was a thread talking about some television shows. She said she stopped watching televisions once she started getting into the and she's actually an aficionado of it and quite an expert in it.
Yeah.
She is a really good moderator.
I've seen.
Well, I don't know. I don't know yet. I see the appeal. I don't know how wide the appeal will be.
Have you done some of Francine's pages?
Pardon?
Have you been in some of her clubhouses?
I was in one of her rooms, yes, and I was just super impressed with the way she moderated the room.
So I've seen that she's done an off. She comes on about it seems like every half hour, every 45 minutes, she's bringing up another topic that she wants to bring on people and talk about. I have yet to do that, but I intend to do that because I think, knowing Francine the way I do, she would be terrific at that. I'm glad to hear that you said that. I will definitely listen in.
Brent, circling back to you, do you want to revise your remarks?
No. Not at all. I mean, I see a lot of this going on in other channels. I mean, shit, look at LinkedIn Live. I mean, we do a thing where we bring in, we'll set up a formal panel, but we're bringing in, integrating all sorts of comments and people, and I mean, we'll bring them on the screen. You can do that almost, not on any channel, but you could do that if you really want to on a variety of places. I just think Clubhouse, it has its particular twists or tweaks or whatever, but I don't see anything that new going on, except it's just audio. I just, maybe it's just me.
I want to say that I get what you're saying, but there's something to be said about the audio part of it, that if you don't want to be on screen, yet let me think about how to say this. On Twitter, you are nobody knows who you are. So you can say anything you want, and you can get away with saying really crappy stuff. The violence and the anger and all of that we've talked about over and over again. Here, you can sort of be anonymous, but at the same time, your words matter because people are hearing them. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but it just feels to me like that's the difference.
Well, there's definitely something different about the audio experience compared to the visual experience, compared to reading. It is very intimate. It is engaged, and it's also liberating in that if you are in an audio environment, you can be doing other things. You can walk around the house while you're doing it. You're not stuck sitting in front of a camera looking at a screen. It's the same thing that made Echo and Alexa very attractive to people, because there was a UI that you didn't have to pay attention to, but was available to you when you wanted to use it. So it's like an audio podcast, it's like a radio show, it's like listening to a record. It becomes part of your environment and it becomes very intimately part of your brain. So an audio experience has a lot that's appealing about it.
It's
I-
interesting that you mention Alexa, because there's a company here in the UK that is they're experts in the UX of the voice assistant in the voice assistant world, trying now to figure out a way to combine Clubhouse and the voice assistants. I'm not sure how far into it they are,
That makes
but
sense.
they're working on that. And it seems to me somewhere in my brain it says, wow, there's something to that.
Well, I mean, there definitely is. I mean, if you're cooking, if you're folding clothes, if you're gardening, if you're out walking, if you're exercising, you have audio experiences available to you in a way that visual experiences are not available to you.
Yeah, this is one of the aspects of the resurgence of podcasting. And it's also, I believe, a direct attack, I don't want to say that in a negative way, on radio, just in general. Radio, your hands are free in radio.
Well, and also with radio, you got the hosts of the show running the show, and you don't have the other voices coming in unless
Except for
radio
talk-
is a little different. Yeah,
we've had that
but
for a few
Clubhouse
decades.
seems to be different. Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to everything you guys are saying, and it makes it makes some sense. It makes a lot of sense. I just think that it's an additional channel. Maybe it gives you an additional way to, converse and collaborate on things. But the way people are talking about it, I just don't get that much of the hype around.
Yeah, but that's the early phase kind of situation. I mean, this is Andreessen Horowitz is rolling out this platform. They're doing a good job of bringing on their famous friends, Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and giving people access to that in a very traditional radio model. As a matter of fact, it was so traditional that it almost broke the software. And this is a phase that we all go through as we sort of tire kick these social networks.
I think this is different though. And I'm glad you brought up the Andreessen Horowitz and the famous people side of this, because this Clubhouse makes a lot of sense for those, like immediate sense for those kind of people, because they can get, you get them involved. And here's what I'm saying is I have some people, I'm not going to name anybody, but the reason that they seem to be infatuated with this thing is because they think that they're able to, the Clubhouse allows you to connect with people you never would have, or talk with people you never would have. Like, they'll throw out celebrity kind of names, because the celebrity kind of names is the draw, and it's in being able to say you're in a room with so and so, and you can ask them a question, and
well, I
so
understand.
they're using that, and Andreessen Horowitz, it makes tons of sense for them, because they're the ones hoping to get the big payoff when this thing IPOs or gets bought by somebody.
But
I'm just thinking long term. How is all the hubbub?
You could say
and
all of
that.
You could say all of the same things about Twitter, and in fact, I did. I joined Twitter because Gabe Rivera, who's the publisher of Tech Meme, said you should get into this. Now, I didn't know why he was right, but I knew he was right. He's a very, very smart guy. So I captured my handle, my name, and then sat there for about a year and said nothing vaguely interested in some of the fireworks that were going on, but mostly just waiting for the social cloud that I think is invaluable in Twitter to evolve and to develop. And what I hear from all you guys is that there's the potential for that to occur with Clubhouse, regardless of how we feel about the marketing aspects of it or the shiny object aspects of it. And I personally think that they are very clever in how they, forgetting the marketing, they are very clever in how they reduce functionality to prompt a quality that's unique. And I'll explain specifically what I'm saying here. One of the things about that they don't allow yet, and I think that they will have a 140 character problem with this when they confront it, is recording. And the quality of the conversation, it may be more topics focused than I'm particularly interested in, but the quality of knowing that what you're saying is going to be heard, but it is not going to be thrown back at you, that it is not going to be analyzed. It's not going to become an on-demand product, at least not in the current incarnation. I think it's creating a quality of conversation that I think Michael was alluding to in his discussion about, or whoever it was who said it, about the facility that Francine Hardaway has in terms of herding the cats in these environments. These are people who sense something about this platform that may not be clear, but it doesn't mean that it's not real.
I think you make a really good point there about the recording. I think that it could be something that hurts it down the road once
Secret sauce
going to happen.
The secret sauce of great product design is always what you leave out, not what you put in. And
this will get figured out.
They have left out things that make it very appealing, but on the other hand, the things they leave out may also provide a limitation, because Clubhouse is inevitably going to be competing with every other way you could spend your time, whether it's binging Netflix or going out to the pub. Well, currently we can't go out to the pub. I mean, I think COVID is probably one of the factors that makes Clubhouse appealing right now. You know, Dennis talked about cafe society. Even before Paris in the 20s, you know, in the 18th century in London, the coffee house society grew up, and there was a combination of the actual real-time presence of going to the coffee house and mingling with the people, and the journalism that came out of it, the newsletters that came out of it, you know, the Spectator, the same people who met in the coffee house also published and also read. So Clubhouse by itself as an audio only environment is just part of the spectrum that we now have available to us in terms of very rich audio visual environments, publishing environments, and the fact that nobody can actually go out to a real coffee house now or to a real pub is something that gives it a special impetus. So this is the perfect time to launch a product like this.
You know, Michael, you make some really good points, and one of the things that made the coffee house really essential to society, and the same thing about the cafe, is that at the same time there were men's clubs. You had to be a member. You had to join, you had to be vetted. The coffee house didn't have that. So you had a much broader cross-section of people that you could interact with and get different ideas from. And I think there's that aspect in the Clubhouse thing as well. The other thing I'd say is that, you know, Brent's pointing out that the kind of conversational aspect isn't limited to coffee house and to Clubhouse, and that's fine. I think what we're honing in on here is that is that social media may have jumped the shark over the last 4 or 5 years, and we might be auditioning new forms of communication, of interaction.
Oh, one other thing to add to this mix. Pubs and cafes and coffee houses have a lubricant that's not available in Clubhouse yet, which is booze and caffeine.
Are you kidding me?
What do you mean?
I mean,
Bring
Tina's
your
drunk herself under the table in this conversation.
I'm right there with her.
California, you can do more than drink.
No, I love
Thank
Dennis's
coffee, by
point.
the way.
No, I love Dennis's point about the jumping the shark, and I think for me, it's not about the technology, and it's not even about the great use cases of a certain set of people. I just think that the majority of folks, just like they've ruined using social media for political discussions, and we don't even have to get in on it. It's the bad people. It's almost like the bad gun versus the good gun. There's just so many people who are ready to use this stuff for what I call negative reasons, whether it's self-promotion or branding, all that. It just puts that bad connotation or that negative connotation or bad taste in my mouth for a lot of this stuff. I agree with everything you guys are saying, but I also say that the majority of people, or at least the loudest people who get on these platforms, are the ones that make you sick of this stuff.
Well,
Yeah, but the tyranny of
there's something to that. Part of the appeal of Clubhouse right now is that it's new. When television was new in the 50s, not everybody had it. It had a certain kind of programming.
Frank has
because it was
5.
appealing only to an elite. And the early
Frank was
days of
doing all
YouTube
that.
had a much different quality to it than YouTube today. The early days of Twitter had a different quality than Twitter today. So Clubhouse today has that benefit of being one of these new, narrow audiences that's very interested in exploring new media.
That's absolutely right. I think Brent's talking about a fast follower mode, and Michael, you're talking about early adopters, and it's the early adopters that set the trends. So it's
But
kind
interestingly, I don't think that. Interestingly, I don't think that just parenthetically that that the fast followers of Clubhouse as a product are going to be successful.
They're not.
Right. I'm not talking about fast followers of Clubhouse. I'm talking about the fast followers, the late adopters of social media. This, the 50-year-old guy with a Trump banner charging the nation's capital has Twitter on his phone. Perhaps he's probably been using it 5 years. He's a late adopter. He's not the target of the audience of the conversational media that Clubhouse and all the others are part of, I think.
So part of it is just every few years you need a new place for the cool kids to go to get away from the crowd. They can be together with the other cool kids.
Yeah, but you got to also have a new system for identifying who you think are cool.
Well, it's like Yogi Berra once said, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded.
Good old Yogi.
Yeah. And that was, of course, written by Ringo Starr, but that's okay.
Yeah, I bet.
Beatles reference.
All right. Well, I could throw another comment into this about, well, what about newsletters? But I think it's already been answered. So let's go around the table. I heard Brent say that on a show yesterday or the day before. And he
Wait a minute.
Well, that's some
you heard me say
other show that he was. He didn't even give us a name check.
Wait a minute. I did. That is so wrong. I said the guy who put the Gilmore in the Gilmore Gang. Is that not a name check?
Yeah,
no, but I'm talking about using copyright catchphrases.
Oh, well, when that new bill 230 comes in, I'll stop doing that. So.
Okay, thank you. And in the meantime, keep up the great work. So let's start with Dennis. Last thoughts?
Last thoughts. Too bad Keith's not here. There's an interesting article in the Washington Post, Lou Dobbs and the most problematical claims Trump allies made about voting machines. Guess what? You can get sued if you tell fibs about other people, regardless of your platform, 230 or not.
Yeah. Frank, you're a former cohort of Lou.
I'm not sure
Really?
I would say cohort, but we shared a floor. And I actually put him on a show that I had Belzer host.
So it's your fault.
But I can
Wow.
tell you that those of us who had any interaction with him in his early career on Moneyline, which was this show on CNN in the very early 80s, which was I think there was maybe one other financial show on television, and it was on PBS. And so he really was one of the starters of all of this. And he had an assistant. Her name was Maria Bartiromo, who eventually became a star and who eventually became a female version of Lou Dobbs in terms of her sycophancy towards the orange one. And I predict, here's one of the reasons why I think Lou Dobbs went first. First of all, he should have gone first because they did get sued for a big number, and it's really likely that that's an actual honest to God lawsuit that will have ramifications, repercussions, and consequences, not only for him, but for Fox. And that Fox wants to be able to say that, look, we let Lou Dobbs go. But I think part of it also is that Lou Dobbs is a thorn in everybody's side and always has been, and was probably a thorn in the Murdoch side. And it was easier for them to let him go because he is such a difficult character to deal with. Whereas Maria is less difficult to deal with. But I don't think she's going to last much longer there either. And as well as Janine Pirro, whatever her name is, the Judge Judy Janine. I think that they are also going to be looked at very closely by Fox and by the Fox lawyers. And I wouldn't be surprised to see those dominoes fall. I don't think it will go down as far as Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity because they're worth too much for the network. Let's not forget that Lou Dobbs and Maria Bartiromo are on Fox Business News. They're lucky to get 300,000 viewers a day for one of their shows. They're just louder than their audience. So those are my.
I'm sorry
opinions.
that you didn't have an opinion about this.
Well, you asked me to tell you what I thought. So there.
I'm
you go.
not
That's
sorry.
me.
I'm not sorry.
All right.
No.
There you go. I got nothing else.
No.
But thank you, Dennis, for mentioning that because
We could
that was on my
do a
mind.
show on that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Frank, just to complete something, when you've got a $2.7 billion lawsuit, if the judgment is in the billions of dollars, I'm not sure Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity are safe if the litigants decide that they'll take a scalp instead of cash.
Interestingly, $2.7 billion, that's real money
Yeah.
as opposed
And I
to
think that's
other
that was my
billionaires
first question, Frank, was whether Lou Dobbs was just a sacrificial lamb to try and stop it, or whether he was the first of a parade.
I think you can
Late.
look at it both ways, but I think he's the first of a parade. I really do.
Yeah, it's too late to stop it. The suit's been filed. There's enough evidence now. Firing Lou Dobbs might limit the future damage.
Brent Leary, last thoughts?
Yeah, go team that's playing against Tom Brady tomorrow.
That would be the
Tom Brady is the Thanos of football.
Ooh.
Ooh, oh, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you understand what he said.
Yeah,
You say
it's totally
that.
not fair. It sounds good.
What it does? What does it mean?
Thanos was just the big villain of the MCU,
The Voldemort
Marvel
of the
Avengers Infinity War. I mean, it was
Thanos. I thought you were talking about the blood test.
To hate.
That was Theranos.
Very
Oh,
powerful.
Theranos, right.
Oh, not that.
Okay,
He's not a fraud. I just
Michael
hate him.
Markman.
I'm very glad I was on this show, and thank you for having me.
Well,
We're
I'm
just glad
very
you're
that
alive,
you
man.
somehow stumbled into the show.
Well, yes, and you know why? Because actually, I got caught up in binging. A friend
Hey,
of mine
look,
was
here's-
telling me that he was very late to come to the party to start watching Breaking Bad, and I said, I think I'm going to start rewatching it, see if it holds up. And I'm totally engrossed in Breaking Bad.
I like
Well-
Better Call Saul better, actually.
Well,
There's
I-
a really interesting thing going on right now that's sort of the anti-binge on the streamers that The Mandalorian has done, and a couple of other series have done, where they've come back and they're now only bringing these shows out 1 week at a time.
Disney started that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because once they've all aired, you certainly could then decide to watch it and then binge it. But if you're interested in watching it, it's sort of a Back to the Future. It's the old way of, you need to watch a television show at a certain time on a certain day. It's very interesting thing.
I think CBS All Access did it first with their new Star Trek series, Discovery.
Star Trek, right.
Before Disney Plus adopted the pattern. But then, Apple TV Plus has used that pattern. It seems to be, except for Netflix, it seems to be pretty much a standard pattern.
Yeah.
Netflix and Amazon are still dumping the whole series at once.
Hey,
Oh,
by
there
the
you
way,
go.
I just want to
ahead.
say we actually have folks leaving comments. I know we don't interact with the but there's some interesting comments by my buddy Scott Wilder, who is
He's my buddy too.
yeah.
Hi, Scott.
Yeah, so currently he's over at HubSpot, but I've known him since he was at Intuit. Interesting comments from Mr. Wilder.
Well,
Here,
Scott
share.
Sam.
yeah,
What-
that goes interestingly to the newsletter issue.
Let's hear
Doesn't
the
it?
comments.
Well, I cannot put into
Well, he
my
can say
mouth.
them. He can
Yeah,
say
he
them.
could, but he's not.
Brent, read the comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I'll be glad to. So, I mean, they were real-time comments as we're talking about different things, but I think this goes towards the Clubhouse stuff. So it's like, what about TikTok newness versus Clubhouse? Different, but ... We forgot the last dot. It's ... And then there was, I tend to Clubhouse during dinner time. Now he's using Clubhouse as like a verb now.
Of course. They all become verbs.
Yeah, and then he agrees with Markman. I don't know what for, but he says, agree, have a rice sandwich on me.
I will tell you what that's about. I knew Scott at Apple, and we were lunch buddies, and we went out to a sandwich stop. And I don't know if he came up with the idea or I did, but we asked for a rice sandwich, and we both began to enjoy them. I think I had rice sandwich with mustard.
That's the
What,
member.
what the hell is a
the
rice
famous-
sandwich?
You take some rice and put it between two pieces of bread. What do you think it is?
What?
Do you remember Jack Nicholson in
So much starch.
what was that film with Jack
Not
Nicholson?
so much.
Oh,
Nicholson?
Cuckoo's Nest?
No.
Five
It's-
easy
The
pieces.
chicken sandwich?
thank you. 5 easy pieces. Yes.
5 easy pieces. That's what it was. Yes.
Yes.
It was a tuna sandwich, wasn't it?
No, chicken.
All I remember is hold it between your legs.
Well,
I must have missed
Scott
that.
and I
one.
didn't get into that.
Yeah,
We
me
just ate
too.
the rice sandwich.
Okay.
One of those, you must have been ready to go run a marathon.
Brent,
Oh,
are those
but-
comments coming off of a watch party?
But well, I just went to the Gilmore Gang page on Facebook, and by the way, Scott is saying he's still here, and he's saying rice sandwiches are good.
There you go.
So I have to take his word on that one.
Mustard or mayo?
Oh, mustard for me.
Now we got people chiming in. Jerome Hughes is saying chicken salad is good. So now Scott is asking, so where will TikTok and wait a minute? So where will TikTok and Clune House? What's going on here, Scott? Too many rice
Clubhouse.
sandwiches? What's going on here, man?
I love that it's become a verb. It's because it made it. I was trying to figure out. I should have coined the verb earlier because I was trying to figure out what to say. Clubhousing at dinner. It's a great idea.
So,
I've
so when do
actually-
you guys clubhouse? I'm
I
just
clubhouse
curious.
before I go to sleep. Well, for me, going to sleep is like early in the afternoon. For you guys, or mid afternoon. So
Oh, right.
We just call that nap time.
nap time. I don't have a cat to nap with. That's a shame.
I'm going to
What was
I'm
that,
going to apologize to you guys now because the comments are just rolling in. Maybe I should just stop.
I don't understand why you'd be apologizing for this.
Yeah.
Well, because I
Comments is
didn't
good.
know. I thought you like to ignore the potential
Oh.
audience. That's
That's
No,
absurd.
no, no.
I'm just trying to deal with the fact that there's nobody watching.
Brent, you're helping us clubhouse the Gilmore gang. You're bringing
Oh,
other
no.
listeners into the conversation.
You know,
So
that's what I want to do, and maybe if I can get your hostility about Clubhouse under control enough that we can start opening up some Clubhouse sections, not
so we can clubhouse while we Gilmore. Is that
No,
kind of what
not
we're talking
while.
about?
We've seen examples. We've seen examples of doing it simultaneously. I'm not sure that works, but
House while Gilmoring.
yeah, dinner time. Oh yeah, that's gonna be really successful in
I
this house.
clubhouse when I'm pombrianting.
Turn that on.
Don't you pombriant when you're clubhousing?
I want to thank Keith Tier for giving us something to run away from that turned out to be highly interesting.
He ran away from it.
No, he had a good reason for running
I
away.
know.
Watching a soccer match.
Golden time with your kids beats
Priceless.
everything.
Priceless.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what she said.
We'll
It's
just-
everything for-
Maybe I won't say goodbye. We'll leave this up.
Help.
I'm glad we had a chance to
Just
do
give
the show
everybody
this
the
week.
URL.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you? I can't
Um,
wait to see what you title this one.
I
Okay,
can't
name-
either.
Name that show.
No.
We used to do this. We used to ask for
All right, go ahead.
name the show, listeners.
I clubhouse while I Gilmore.
Too many
Wow.
words. It's only three.
3 is the man.
3 or less.
Sometimes a small little, yeah.
Clubhouse, therefore be. What was it? What was the card? What would Descartes say? Cogito ergo sum.
Ma'am?
What I think, therefore I am, or something like that. Is
Yeah.
that what he said?
Clubhouse, therefore I am. That's
Oh,
cool.
That's not bad.
I clubhouse, therefore I be.
Yeah,
Okay, wrap up.
thank you. What
Michael.
we do is not easy. Okay.
It's not
I want-
easy. It's not easy.
That was a,
Good one.
who did that?
Eagle. No.
Buddy
It's
Holly,
not easy to fall in love. Yeah, it was Buddy Holly.
right? Okay, thanks to our producer and director, Tina Chase Gilmore.
Ah, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks to Keith here. We've already name checked him several times, and we'll look forward to seeing him back here again to defend his position, at which point I will interrupt and change the subject. Thanks to Dennis Pombriant.
Okay. Have a good
Thank-
week.
Thanks to Brent Leary.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Frank Radis.
Welcome. Thank you.
And last but certainly least, no, not least, I have to keep people honest, is Michael Markman. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks to everybody who showed up and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wave.